Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Homer Harbor. My name is Seth Spencer, and I'm an educator for the Center for Alaskan Coastal Studies. And today we're going to be exploring a bit some of the animals that live here in the Homer Harbor. So we have water of Kachemak Bay, and we're going to be going down onto the docks and talking a little bit about why these animals might choose to live on a harbor, and talk a little bit about some of the challenges that they might face, but also some of the adaptations that might help them live either in this harbor environment or in the intertidal zone, or the area between the high and low tide. So here we go. So we're about to go down the ramp to the Homer Harbor, but you may notice that the harbor looks a little strange, and that you might ask, where's all the water? Well, the reason that there is so much beach right now is that I am here at low tide, and right now the tide is at about 0.0, and what that means is the average tide for the whole year. And so if it's above that, it's above the average, and if it's below that, a negative number, it's below the average. But today we're about average, about what the normal low tide is for the entire year, and is 0 feet, which we also sometimes call sea level. So here we go. I talked about how we are going down at low tide, 0.0 feet, which means that our ramp to the Homer Harbor is very steep. So here we go. We're going to take it nice and easy. Boom, boom, boom. So we are down on the Homer Harbor right now. This is what's called a floating harbor, which means everything I am standing on is just floating on the water, and it goes up and down with the tide as it rushes in and out. And you might notice that there's some big posts or poles. That's what the harbor attaches to, so it doesn't float away. So we are here at the Homer Harbor, and it is a little breezy, so I'll try to talk nice and loud. But we're going to talk about the first animal that spends or lives here in the Homer Harbor. And we're going to talk a little bit about the adaptations that allow it to actually be here. So as I mentioned, we are at low tide, which means the water is quite low, and so some of the animals that have attached themselves to the dock itself are now exposed. And so the first animal we're going to talk about is this wonderful black shape. You might be able to see it attached right here. And for those that like to eat seafood, you can say, oh my goodness, it's a mussel. And yes, we have a group of black or Pacific blue mussels here, and they are actually attached to this pole. And the reason they're in a big clump and attached to the pole are for a couple different reasons. One is that so they're not floating away, and that allows them to survive as they filter water or have water come in through their gills, and they're filtering out things that they want to eat, such as tiny little animals called plankton, or little plant-like things called plankton. And then another reason they're kind of attached to each other, and I'll try to get nice and close, you might be able to see these little threads. Let's see if we can pull one out just a little bit. Get in a little close. See some of those threads? Those are called byssal threads. And those byssal threads allow the mussels to stay together in a group in case another animal, a predator, tries to come and eat them, whether that be a snail or a sea star. It allows them to maybe not get pulled away as much, or they can even use those byssal threads to have multiple mussels attached to a snail and actually hold it in place, which is a pretty amazing adaptation. Here you can maybe see some of those byssal threads a little bit better. But another adaptation that these mussels have is that hard outer shell, which prevents them from being eaten by many a predator or possibly not dry out. So that is one thing that all these animals that live in this intertidal zone have to deal with, is worried about being dried out as the tide goes out. And so they're actually able to trap some water inside there. And so there is kind of a soft, powerful foot inside those mussels. Now, if I were trying to open one, it probably would end up killing the mussel. So I'm not going to open any right now, but we'll see if we can find some as we go and explore the harbor a little bit more.